record this. Welcome, Stephen. You are the first person that is on this podcast that I'm using Zoom to record the podcast. So welcome.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you.
You too. So this is a special kind of subsection of the podcast, and I'm calling my friends to find out how they're doing this fucking crazy time that we're living. So I wanted to know what it's like. So tell us a little about you, Stephen. You're living in Sao Paulo. You're a teacher. Tell us a little bit about that, what that's like.
Yeah. So I'm a teacher here. I work at an international school, and I've been living in Brazil for 2 years. So right now I'm teaching online. So it's new for the students. It's new for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the crazy thing is that everything escalated so quickly.
Yes.
We're talking about distance learning one day, and it seemed like every day there was some kind of new update. And then I think, among the conversations with my colleagues at work, I think we kind of knew that we would close down school, but we were the first school in Brazil to close down. And then everything it's been a bit chaotic.
Yeah. It's been the same here as well. Like, I was talking 2 weeks ago with friends that were going to be on the podcast in my apartment and stuff. And so when I think back to that, I mean, it seems like it was a million years ago, but it was 2 weeks ago. So I think everyone is sort of dealing with the same issues.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I mean, how am I doing? I guess yeah. I think the thing that's so scary is that there's so much that is unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, Brazil, they just, I can come back, but they banned all foreign citizens from coming into Brazil. So, many of my colleagues, they've left, they're doing distance teaching from home in the States,
mm-hmm.
And I think, I had to think about, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back home? But personally for me, I don't really have a home to go back to in the States, unless I'm sleeping on my sister's couch in Brooklyn or
right.
Going to stay with my older mom in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, there's quarantine here, and, I do go out and exercise. I go out for a run sometimes, and try to get some exercise to get outside. But I'm finding it a struggle to be in the apartment all day long.
Yeah.
I think, even now I'm thinking about maybe going back with a colleague of mine and staying with her family in Minnesota. But that would involve, a 2-week quarantine. She has older parents.
Oh.
And I think...
Where will they quarantine you, though? Like, how does that
work? They have a basement.
Oh, okay.
But,
like a building like that would be.
Yeah. And I think for me, the most difficult thing is actually is just being isolated. And, I never really thought that I would need to be around people. Typically at work, I'm a bit antisocial. I like to go to my office and teach and go home. And I've been realizing how unconscious, even at work when we were at school, how I would, unconsciously seek out human interaction. Right. And so, having all this time, my apartment's the cleanest it's ever been. I've organized basically every single closet. I've washed shoes. I've put shoelaces in shoes that haven't had shoelaces for a long time.
Yeah. I find myself cleaning like my dining room table and the not so much the kitchen, but like cleaning the same surface, like 4 times a week, like which sounds
Yeah.
like nothing, but for me,
Yeah.
I know I find myself in the same state, actually. Tell me a little bit about tell our tens of listeners. Um, I still don't know how many listeners we have. I know it's more than 10.
Hundreds.
Hundreds, probably hundreds. I have no idea. But tell us what it's like in Sao Paulo, in Brazil specifically.
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, I think for the most part, Brazilians are adhering to the social distancing guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
You mentioned that the parks are closed, though?
right. The parks here are closed. They closed them. Bolsonaro's the president, so he kind of has a similar mentality as Trump, where
Yeah, awesome.
he feels that this is not a very serious thing, and I think he's admonished the governors of the different states, and so there's kind of like a war between the president and the states, But of course, there's political connections and political reasons. I assume why he's doing so, but but the governor in Sao Paulo, he's been very adamant about social distancing and implementing quarantine. But I think it's just, again, there's just so much that's not. It's just it's such a unique situation to be in, and I had an interesting conversation with an American colleague of mine, and I said, on a Zoom call after we taught a lesson together, I said, did you and your wife, were you guys thinking of going back to the States? And, one of the reasons why they decided to stay as of right now here in Brazil is they feel that Brazilians almost have a communal sense of obligation in terms of adhering to social distancing, and
right.
He didn't really feel as confident about Americans and their
yep.
almost individualistic. This is not going to prevent me from living out my daily life.
Yeah. No one's going to tell me to do anything. Blah blah blah.
Right, and I don't really have any evidence to support that, but I think it was an interesting conversation we had, just in terms of about the cultural difference between Brazilians and Americans.
Right.
But still, I think even Brazilians and Americans, there's still, I think there's a lot of fear, right?
Yeah. As you say, there's like nobody really knows how this is going to all shake out. The only thing that we're being told that, in New York City, it's pretty, we're all pretty much stay at home, although Christian has to go to work twice a week, which freaks me out, because he works in a vet's office. And up here where I live in upstate Manhattan, the tip of the island, there's a bunch of shuttered stores, but there's still a lot of people hanging out, like, closely hanging out, talking. And then you go to the supermarket or the pharmacy or the liquor store, and there's lines outside, which I think is a good thing. And I'm getting a little bit more used to it now. Like for the first, week or whatever of that, I would just walk out of my house and see that and kind of start crying.
Right.
It's so fucking surreal. And I know that it's a good thing, and I'm glad they're taking precautions. I'm more concerned with the people working in those places,
Mm-hmm.
The cashiers and stuff. And I always did before, but one of the things I'd love to impart to the people listening is, if you haven't done so before, have a conversation with a woman who's cashing you out.
Yeah.
Or the person, cooking meat on the side of the street, like in his little cart.
Right.
Because they have no option. They have no other option than to continue to do what they're doing. And I think it's really important that if anything comes of this, I hope that there's going to be some sort of kind of like awareness, you know, of people that are really on the front lines. I mean, this is not even talking about the doctors and nurses and and all that stuff, but the people who, you know, I try to go to the market now like once a week, you know, twice a week maybe, but they're there, you know, 5 days a week, probably 12-hour days or something. So
yeah, you know, I absolutely agree with you, and those same thoughts have gone through my head, you know, since I've been in quarantine for the past 2 weeks. You know, in the supermarkets, there hasn't been a whole lot of panic buying. I haven't seen a whole lot of lines in the various supermarkets that I do go to, but I've definitely thought about how it's so easy to lose connection to people, and I've tried to be cognizant and more aware of you know, saying hello,
right,
and engaging with the concierge in my building, and it's just really fascinating because you just start to reflect about, you know, all of the different interactions that you do have, and
that you take for granted normally, and now you're hyper conscious of it. Yeah,
right, and you're reminded of the importance of generosity and kindness. You know, I was in the elevator in my building yesterday, and I went walking with my two colleagues, and we Jesse and Christopher. Christopher's he's the band director at the school, and Jesse, she teaches second grade, and I teach in the middle school. But you know, we're really close friends, and we went for a walk.
Just so the folks know listening, you teach English and humanities, yeah?
Yeah, English and history, which humanities is basically like, you know, English and history together. You know, it's a typical middle school course kids take.
Okay.
But a lot of my kids happen to be learning English as a second language. So a lot of Brazilians. Which an interesting thing about teaching Brazilians online, you can't get them to be quiet in the classroom. But, you know, because they're so social. And, you know, and I think that's another interesting thing, just teaching online now, like Brazilian students, more so than any other students that I've taught in India, I've taught in Israel, I've taught in New York City. I was a New York City public school teacher for 10 years. But Brazilians, they're very social, and the way that they approach education is, I think, very different from, I think, the typical American teacher. There's a lot of chatting, a lot of talking. It's very, you know, they need to socialize. And so I think the Brazilian students that I do teach, they're struggling with that lack of connection. So I'm kind of joking, but like I'm teaching, you know, kids, and so Brazilian kids, you know, on Zoom, and they, so for me, it's nice because, you know, I can mute them. They have to raise their hand when they share. But I'm actually a bit concerned, you know, especially for the sixth graders I teach, because they're so bored. They're so bored at home, and they really miss socializing with their peers.
So let me ask you. So you mentioned you're teaching on Zoom, and so like we're now doing a Zoom, and there's two of us.
Yeah.
So do you have like 20 little windows, and then it's all separate, separate recording? Wow. Yeah.
So I have like I can pan through, and I can pan through like the 22 students who are in the classroom. Sometimes I co-teach with a colleague. So there's two teachers and kids, which is really cool. But I think the cooler thing is that I can even send the kids out. I don't know if you've done this. Probably not, because you've probably just interviewed one-on-one.
You're really like the second time I've used Zoom, so.
Okay. But I can send the kids off into breakout chat rooms, you know, have them, you know, have a small group discussion, and then put a time limit, and then they come back to the larger discussion, and then, you know, choose one of the kids to share out whatever they were talking about. So, you know, in some ways it's actually been really cool and fun teaching online. It's required a complete paradigm shift in terms of, you know, how to teach content. I think we have to, you know, teach things more project based and, you know, activities that and assignments that they can do. But I think it's a learning curve for the kids and the teachers.
Right. That's, you know, that's the one kind of, well, again, I keep saying this, that's one of the things that makes it, I think, a little bit easier for all of us, is that all of us are kind of living this completely new reality right now. And so I think I hope that, you know, there's a lot more leeway like a lot more slack in terms of all of us and being patient with ourselves and others. And this is all new territory. So.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I've just been thinking about, I mean, just how incredibly grateful I am to still have a job.
Yes.
You know, I can teach online and, you know, I can still make a living here in my apartment in Sao Paulo.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I even heard from my sister, she's a chef in Little Rock, Arkansas. And, you know, she lost her job. Her husband's a chef. He lost his job. They're filing for unemployment. And here, so many people are out of work. I mean, there's, there was, you know, a family that, you know, they had 6 hours to get out of the country. I think the company made the family leave, and the kids attended my school, and, you know, they had to leave all their furniture. And
what?
One of my colleagues, you know, she stepped in and she, you know, sold everything, and she's gonna, I guess they've decided to donate the money, to all the proceeds to the housekeeper and the clean, 2 people who worked in the house,
mm-hmm.
and give them money because, you know, they don't have any work. Wow. So, you know, I don't know how everything's going to unfold. I think, you know,
I'm concerned as well, because I know so many people that work in restaurants and bars and the theater. Everything is shuttered, and we don't really know how long. Again, there's that whole unknown, you know, like none of us knows how long this is going to be going on. And we talked about this earlier on the call we had earlier, that, you know, the economic impact is going to be severe and long lasting, long before, you know, the cure, if there is even such thing, you know, the social distancing stuff, like that's what I'm more freaked out about, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we will see.
Right.
How
hey, you're okay. You're healthy. You're safe. You have food.
Yeah, I do. I have. Geez, I mean, maybe I panic bought. There's full of frozen foods, chicken nuggets, frozen pizzas. I never would have eaten that stuff. Frozen meatballs.
Right.
But yeah, I'm fine. You know, it's just me. It's my 2 cats.
Oh, are they there now? Can you?
Yeah, Hermes and Polo. They're like, why are you still here?
Hermes and Polo. Can you bring them in the?
Yeah. Here, I'll bring Hermes.
And then I'll get Tito.
Oh, Tito.
Oh, he's beautiful. Is that?
Yeah, he's like a Siamese mix.
Yeah. Oh, so is Tito, and of course he's being completely unruly. Okay.
Oh, geez.
Jesus.
He's a bit temperamental.
Man, I don't normally do that with him, but he's usually really chill. But okay. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, he's beautiful.
Yeah. I think he usually comes and joins me on some lessons. So maybe
Oh,
he's used to Zoom.
his eyes are glowing too. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Now, is this Hermes or
So this is Hermes.
Hermes?
Where'd Polo go? Polo is a bit more afraid cat.
Hermes and Paulo, I love it.
So Hermes, I've both adopted them. He's huge.
Oh, hi there.
He's like a little lion. And
Yeah, he is really.
yeah, he was a street cat, and I adopted him from a lady who was taking care of him at a school.
Good for you.
They've been keeping me company.
You know, I mean, you can't overstate the importance of having some kind of creature, with you. That's fantastic. Do you have any sort of advice for our listeners, ways that you're coping with this whole thing, like things like relaxing regimens or?
I mean, I don't know how strict the quarantine will end up taking place here, but for me, oh man, I never really understood the concept of comfort eating till
I know, me too.
I've been eating so much, and it's definitely been affecting my waist size. And I mean, I've probably gained 2 kilos in the past.
I'm really glad you said that because I'm finding the same thing. Yeah.
So
never.
Me, sorry to interrupt you, but starting to exercise. I think being physical has helped quite a bit.
Good.
I think I don't know. I listened to this other podcast a couple days ago, and Ghost of a Podcast with Jessica Lanyadoo. She's a really good podcast.
Send me the link and I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, yeah, I really enjoy it. That podcast has actually been helping me quite a bit because I think she gives good advice, and just being reflective about your thoughts, your feelings, the things that you're going through, and and I think the last episode she was talking about addiction, and just sort of like being in this like surreal situation. This is like a really a time where your past addictions, your current addictions, they kind of come to light, and you're
right.
Grappling with these things that because you're so busy before, you don't really have time to really sit and think and reflect about it.
I have no idea what you're talking about. My bourbon.
Cheers.
Look, I'm glad you brought up the whole eating your feelings because I've never known that either. But I kind of feel like, because I was on keto for a while and I lost 20 pounds and I gained 10.
You look fantastic. You look fucking fantastic, by the way.
I'm not shaving because I just don't. I fucking hate shaving, and I kind of want to like see how long it's going to be my barometer for how long. Like if I don't want like this,
right? Right. You've seen those memes of what everyone's going to look like. That's right.
But I'm
one thing that I do miss is I miss going to the barber shop. One of the great things about Sao Paulo is there's barbershops everywhere.
Oh.
It's very common to go, once, twice a week, to fix your beard. And I really got into that routine, and obviously everything's closed. So I'm really missing a manicured beard. It's been a while. But
it looks good from here though. On your hair, you have like gorgeous hair, so you're fine for a while.
Thank you.
Look, I think just to wrap this up, I think it's really important that we all give ourselves some slack and say, okay, so I'm going to eat that package of carbs, and I'm not going to so much worry about, my waistline. But to your point, your secondary point is like, it's really important that we go walking, bike riding if we can, and maybe not. So, I mean, I miss the social thing too. I'm Italian, and I don't know how to when I see a friend, I have to stop and say, I can't hug you and kiss you on the cheek. Like, I don't know how to do
Yeah.
that. So all of that.
It's really hard to change your behaviors.
Oh my God, that I'm touching my face, like Jesus Christ, like
Right.
all of those things are, we just have to kind of just do this for maybe at the outset, hopefully like 2 months. I think it's way more than,
right.
5 weeks or something. I think it's going to be more like 2 months.
Right. I agree. You know what? Yeah. The other, I guess, I completely agree with you. And the only other advice, who am I to give advice? Jesus.
Mm-mm.
The only advice I would give that I found helpful is reaching out to people,
Yes.
And I've reached out to people that I haven't talked to in a long time, which has been great. Even now, I feel so much better, even just seeing you and talking to you.
Right. Me too.
It's because that's the hardest thing. It's that missing that. God, it's both. It's missing the human interaction, but then also just realizing. I'm speaking for myself. I'm questioning why I haven't talked to you, or kept or with you or my sister in Brooklyn. It's been a time of reflection, I guess,
Right.
But it's been helpful to exercise that and definitely keep in touch with people that are important.
Good. Well, let me just say also that the one thing that I've noticed in this, rapid, 2-3 week period is that I also, I have this podcast and I found myself kind of really enjoying talking to people and doing this, kind of thing. But there's been this kind of, I don't want to say urgency, but this sort of, it seems much more kind of important to, as you say, have conversations with people that you care about and care for. And the only difference here is that we're doing it on Zoom and it's going to go up on YouTube. But honestly, my hope in doing this sort of subset of episodes on the podcast is, checking in with my friends. So there's like a sort of selfish component to that. But also when I talk to people about, like you said, what are your coping mechanisms and like just letting people know that they're not alone and this is what I do and this might help you. And so that's what the point of this series is. And yes, so we have to just, all of us, even if it seems uncomfortable, because it is sort of uncomfortable, but not second nature to me, reaching out to people that we care about,
No, I totally agree with you. And I can't wait to hear the other people that you interview. Are you going to interview Julie?
I am. Julie's on the docket. So is my friend Louise and her husband Stephen and their 2 girls, also in London. You're my first South American guest, by the way.
Well,
so there's a bunch of people, a bunch of friends in London. I have some friends in France, some folks in Spain that I'm going to talk to. I'm interviewing. I'm really excited to announce. It's already announced on social media. Joey Arias is going to be on the podcast. Going to be doing like one of these things. Joey Arias is like this legendary New York nightlife performer for like 30 years. He's amazing. So I'm just going to keep doing this because I really enjoy it and I think it helps people. I hope it helps people. And you'll come back on,
Thank you. Well, it's really been a pleasure and I miss you. And let's just get through this, man.
We will get through this. We will get through this. Just stay inside as much as you can.
Yeah.
Eat your veggies and drink lots of water and wash your hands.
Yes. And exercise.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right. Bye, Scott. It was nice to see you.
You too. Bye.
Yes.